Today I share an easy way to create a watercolored cosmos. Hi there, it's Therese from Lostinpaper and welcome back. I have a new crafted flower from Altenew here. It's called the Cosmos. Has lots of options in this set because there's 2 flowers, 3 leaves and a couple of stems. So you can do heaps with this. And today I'm going to be using the watercolour paper set because I'm going to be doing some really simple watercolouring using my woodless watercolour pencils. Now I just grabbed out all the greens and the teal greens and a couple of blues here because I had this vision in my head. I wanted to create some white watercolour flowers. I didn't want to use all of the layers with the layering die set, but I'll get to that in a minute and I'll let you see exactly how I did it. But when I decided to go on Pinterest and have a little look for some inspiration, and initially I was kind of thinking a grey background, but then I saw this beautiful watercolour cosmos card or picture and I was just inspired. So I'm going to try and find it again and I will link it at my blog, but thank you for whoever created it because I have done my card based on your beautiful card and it is similar but different. But these colours just made me happy, and instead of having a grey background, which is what I originally planned, this blue-green background was just such fun to make. So I have got a piece of the watercolour paper which is the same as an A2 card, so 4.25 by 5.5 inches, and I'm literally just scribbling my pencils lightly into the centre of the card, mixing my colours up, sort of focusing in sections and only adding small amounts of the darker colours here. And then all I've done is grab my watercolour brush here from Altenew, and I probably should have grabbed a bigger brush. It would have been much easier to do, but this seemed to work fine. You don't have to have really expensive brushes to get this kind of look, but obviously use what you've got, and this worked fine for me today. What I'm doing here is just adding enough water to get rid of some of those pencil lines, and I'm moving my water and the brush around on the cardstock and mixing my colours together at the same time to kind of create a panel of colour in the centre of my card. And because I'm not using a lot of water and I'm using the pencils here to get my colour, it doesn't take very long to dry at all. Aren't those colours really beautiful? Alright, so I've grabbed another piece of the watercolour cardstock here and I'm just laying out the pieces that I want. Like I said, I'm not using all the layering die cuts to create my flower today. I want to use a watercolour effect to get the depth in my flowers. So I've only die cut the base portion of the image and the center portions, as well as a couple of leaves and stems, but I actually don't use the stems in the end. They didn't really work with my design. And can you see here what I've done? I've actually painted the center of the flowers, and this is how I did it. I've got my woodless watercolor pencils. You can use any watercolors that you've got. You could even use design paper or normal pencils. You don't have to do that watercolor look, but I'm using a tip to tip technique where I've got a wet brush and I'm touching the tip of the pencil with my wet brush and then applying the color directly. If it doesn't turn out dark enough, because the colors do dry lighter, then you can always wait for it to dry, see what the color looks like, and come and add a bit more color on top or add a different color. So this is how I did the center of the flowers. I've got a jet black pencil here. Yes, it's black. And I held my breath. But no, I just did the same technique, the tip to tip. It can tap away any extra watercolor, but I did try and keep the color very light by adding extra water, and to tap away the watercolor I could just use a bit of paper towel, but I figured if I added a little bit, wait and see how it dries. I can always add some more if I think it needs more depth. And I also came in with this, I think it's the Desert Night. I will have all the colours listed that I used, and you'll find that link in the description below, and they're all listed at my blog. And if you have a look at the dies that you already have, if you have similar dies or any of the other crafter flower sets, you can also do this technique with them. It doesn't have to be the Cosmos one. So have a look at the shape or the style of the flower, and sometimes you only need the base one. You can add that kind of washy watercolor center, and you can die cut the centers like I did today as well, or just draw them in if you want with the watercolor or with a pencil or a pen. So I colored the leaves the same, and then I decided I wanted to add a little bit more texture to my background, and this was really simple to do because there is a little bit of tooth in this watercolor paper. It is a nice bright white colored paper. It's lovely to work on. It's a cotton cardstock or watercolor cardstock, but the tooth just gives a little bit of texture, so I am lightly kind of drawing in with a couple of the pencils afterwards to give it a little bit more depth and texture, and I really like how it turned out. So I used some liquid glue to adhere the center of my flowers after they dried, and I did attach this panel to the front of my card. I use a really strong tape usually to do this because it's watercolor cardstock. It really didn't warp a lot, but I don't like the thought of it peeling apart. And I do like the liquid glue too on watercolor cardstock. So if you want a strong hold, use a strong tape, and also like the matte medium works really well with the thicker cardstocks. I popped up the flowers both on the front of the card, as well as added the leaves there as well. The sentiment I used today, it came from the pen sketched silhouette set, and I wasn't sure whether to go because there's no other black, really strong black in this card, but I wanted something that was going to stand out, and I did come along and add a few of the satin white sequins here as well. I do hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please click on the thumbs up button if you did, and if you haven't already, it'd be great if you could subscribe to the channel. I'll be back again real soon with more inspiration. Till then, happy paper crafting. Bye.